My son heard something on the roof last night. Police lights all around our living room. As I typed this, it was Christmas Eve, and we were all tucked into bed, like we should have been. That was when I heard a pounding sound coming from the ceiling. My wife rustled a bit in her sleep, but I remained still. I, on the other hand, could not. I got out of my bed and went to go check on my son. When I got to his bedroom, he wasn't there, which scared me. I rushed out of his room and looked around the stairs balcony to the living room. There was my son standing in front of the chimney, next to all the presents that my wife and I have wrapped just an hour ago. Great, I thought. It looked like we were going to get no sleep before we have to open presents. I journeyed down the stairs to make it past the kitchen into the living room. "Hey, champ," I said, in a groggy voice. "What are you doing up so early?" My son turned to me and said, "I heard Santa on the roof, and I wanted to come down and see him." I first lifted a brow and glanced at the presents that he was steadily ignoring besides him. "Looks like Santa has brought you a lot of gifts this year. You must have been a good boy." My son looked around the ground with a frown. "Why the long face, bud? Santa says that you wrapped those gifts yourself." "Oh yeah, you've talked to Santa, have you?" He looked back at the floor. "He told me not to tell you." This had me a little worried. I wondered if my wife had taken my son to a mall Santa and maybe he must have got drunk and spilled the beans of the magic of Christmas to our child. "Don't listen to that Santa, buddy. Those presents have Santa's name on them. Now how about we open gifts? I'll go wake up your mother, and as soon as I make her a cup of coffee, we'll open these bad boys, okay?" He then looked back to the chimney and then went and blew my wife a cup of coffee. I I blew the coffee and I could hear my son whispering something to himself. "Hey bud, who are you talking to?" He turned around and said, "Santa." When he fell to his knees and collapsed onto his palms, I looked onwards towards the chimney with a long, slim, black and gray striped sweater arm going down the chimney, with a long-figured, bony hand around my son's ankle. I drubbed the mug of coffee to the ground, shattering into pieces, and took a few steps forward. But it was all fruitless. The chimney had absorbed my son, pulling him up towards it. His screams echoed off in the bricks until the only thing I could hear was pounding on the ceiling. Oh no, the roof dropped. I ran outside, ignoring my wife's yells from upstairs, and quickly peered up on the roof. There was a tall, scrawny, old-bearded man stood. His eyes were sunken, and his eyes themselves were pitch black. Antlers indeed sticking from his forehead, stretching out towards the sky. He had a bulging sack over his shoulder. It must have been my son, squirming inside in the bag for his dear life. The bearded man looked over at me and put a finger to his lips. Then he leaped down to my neighbor's rooftop, then the next, until he was out of sight. My wife ran outside to me and asked where our son was. I told her on the phone to get to the police, which she did. And that brings us to where we are now. The police have questioned me repeatedly. At first I gave them that it was a true story of what happened. When they didn't buy it, I changed my story and threw it up to me being shaken of what just happened. In the end, I told them that they had been a robbery and my son had been kidnapped. What I told the police before, though, that was my boy had here Santa on the rooftop, but I didn't think it was Santa. And that, my little pretties, was my son heard Santa on the roof, but I don't think it was Santa. Christmas creepypasta. My final thoughts on the story. Now, I'm going to be 100% honest. This was actually a pretty good Christmas creepypasta. I mean, the title was long, so I shortened it to My Son Heard Santa on the Roof. I just shorted it to that because, if I, make it a long, long title like that. I mean, that the only issue about this story was that the title was long. Like, I mean, I wish that the title wasn't really that long because if it wasn't, it would have been maybe understandable, but I still enjoy this story regardless. Don't get me wrong, I still like this story. I mean, this story honestly was pretty freaky, seeing like a freaky Santa Claus or a man dressed up as Santa getting, this young kid and kidnapping him. I mean, it's pretty messed up, to be honest. I mean, I've heard of this story back up from Sir Horror's channel last year. I heard it from, a few people, like Nashmare narrated this story just recently, and I also saw that Mountain Eyes Narrations and Slaughterhouse Stories actually narrated this story as well. It's a good story. I mean, it was beautiful and well made in detail. There's definitely a lot of time and effort into it. And I mean, it's pretty well made when it comes to this story. I mean, I like this one a lot. Now, I have seen this story a few times, and I decided to go ahead and, take a look at this story, because it's a pretty good one for what this is. So, I guess with that being the case, and with that being said, I'm going to sit here and say this. For one, I'm definitely going to state in this now is that the sentence structure was good, but I mean, there were places that should have been periods. Like, I mean, there were a few run-on sentences that, that probably did not need, so many commas. Like, there was some commas in there. I mean, the punctuation just needs to be a little bit fixed up. I mean, the story was a bit, hard to read at times, but it wasn't really that bad. I mean, it could have been longer, which I do wish for that. But I mean, the story itself, this looks like a recent story, maybe 2018 or 2019. I don't remember when this story was, written, but it was written around the time. I mean, it's not a bad story at all. I mean, I actually find this story to be, okay. But, it's a good one. I mean, I wish the title of the story was not really that long, because if it wasn't that long, then it would have got a bit of a higher rating. I mean, does it kill the story entirely? No. But I always wonder who that man was, but I have a feeling it's some man who's decided to kidnap children, so it's most likely it could be some messed up individual or something. I mean, I have no idea about this, to be honest. But, I mean, the grammar was good, although the punctuation does need to be fixed up a little bit, and I did spot a few grammatical errors in the story, just a few of them. So, they need to be fixed up as well. But other than that, I still find this story to be enjoyable nevertheless. Now, I don't know who the original author of this story is, so I'm gonna leave this as anonymous for now. If I ever find out who the original author of the story is, I'll definitely be sure to give him or her proper credit. But right now, I'm just gonna leave it as anonymous until the author of this story somehow manages to find, who manages to somehow find my manages to somehow find this video, and he or she manages to state in the comments section that he or she wrote the story. I will definitely go from there as, crediting the person if they ever were to find this video. But anyways, like I'm gonna say, this is simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of the story would have to be a 9 out of 10. It's a good creepypasta. I would wish that it was a little longer, though. The title was really, really long, and it wasn't really, it wasn't really necessary to add a really long title. And, I mean, it was a bit, hard to read at times because the punctuation errors and the grammatical errors do need to be fixed up. But other than that, this story was not bad at all. I actually liked it. So anyways, what did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? And also, what would you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro, because I'm out.